to get us in the spirit of a new school year, we're going to do a little project based around the idea of the Phoenix, which is our school mascot. If you've never heard about the Phoenix, you can shoot over to Wikipedia with this link right here and read up a little bit. Basically, the Phoenix is a bird that every so often catches on fire, burns to ashes, and then rises from the ashes to live again. There will be two parts to our project. The first part will be sort of an art project where we take the image of a phoenix and do some neat effects with it. Second will be a small writing sample where we talk about the phoenix and what it represents and how it relates to us. The first thing you need to decide is which of the three phoenix logos you want to use. If we go back to Edmodo, we have three logos here. I'm not sure why the numbers got changed, but this is Phoenix 1, Phoenix 2, and Phoenix 3. Once you've chosen, go ahead and click on Download for the one that you've chosen. Click Open. And it's going to automatically open up with a program called Gimp, which is a graphics program that we'll mainly use with photographs, but also to make some art. When Gimp starts, you should have three windows. The main window where you see the picture, the toolbox window, and the layers window. If for some reason you don't see the layers window, if it's not there, to get it back, simply go to Windows, Recently Closed Docs, and then Layers, Channels, and Paths, and it will reappear. To show you how GIMP works, I want to use my own example. Over here in the Layers window, notice I have several layers. I have the background layer and all these below it. And if I click these off to make them invisible, you'll see that these things are stacked on top of each other. On the very top, I have the actual Phoenix itself. Below that, I have a layer with a sunburst. Then I added a spiral, a second spiral, and then finally I have a black background on the very bottom. You're going to have to understand these layers in order to make your own piece of art. When you start, you only have two layers. You have the actual Phoenix itself and a simple white background. The first thing we're going to do is take the Phoenix and change this color. So over here in those layers, I'm going to make sure I'm clicked on the layer that has the Phoenix on it. I'm going to grab this tool over here called the color picker. And if I click on the black part of the Phoenix, it's going to select all the black parts, which is the entire Phoenix itself. We're going to add to this Phoenix what's called a color gradient, which means that the colors go from one color to another color. Gradient button is right here. Now right now it's set on a black to white gradient. But if I click there, there are many different examples that I can choose. If I like this German flag one, for example, I can click that gradient. And now if I click, drag, and let go, it will change the color of the bird based on how long I've dragged the cursor. You can play with different color gradients yourself to get the color that you like. You can also play with this thing right here called linear. Right now the colors go from one to the other. You can change that to spiral, radial, which means it would go start from the inside and move out. There's several different options for you to play with. You can also make your own gradient if you wish by changing these two colors here. The foreground color and the background color. And then go to gradient, go all the way back to the top, and go foreground to background. And you can have your own color gradient. Once you have your gradient the way you like it, let's go ahead and change this background from white to black. So click on the bottom layer, grab the paint can, and we're going to make sure that this color right here is set to black. And while I'm at it, I should probably set the bottom one back to white. And I'm going to take the paint can oops, first thing, I need to select and select none. So the Phoenix itself is no longer selected. And now I can take the paint can and change the background to black. Okay, so we've got our Phoenix. It's colored with a black background. It's time to add some things to make it really pop. The important thing to remember is that each time I do this, I'm going to add a different layer. So down here, create a new layer. And it's very important that these layers are transparent. So make sure this button right here, transparency, is selected. That means that they'll be see-through basically. You can call a layer whatever you want to. I might call this one sunburst layer, because that's what's going to be on the layer. So I press OK. And it's in between the Phoenix and the bottom layer, which is exactly what I want. I could always click and drag them and put them where I want it. And I'm going to go up here to Filters. And to get a sunburst, I'm going to go to Light and Shadow. And it's called a supernova. Now, this is going to be a preview of what my supernova is going to look like. I can click right here and drag it to put it somewhere else. I can change its color if I want. And down here, radius is how big the sunburst is. Spokes is how many sort of points of light are shooting off of it. And if you do random hue, the colors will go from the one that you chose to a little bit more random. And as you go further along, they get really, really random. So I'm going to change it just a little bit, maybe to right about there. Press OK. It's going to take a couple seconds. And there's my sunburst. I'm going to show you just a couple more tricks. So I'm going to add some things to the background over here. So of course I need to have a new layer. I'm not going to call this one sunburst. Maybe I'll call this one spiral. Set the transparency, which is what I want. Press OK. And there it is. I'm going to go to Filters again, to Render, and I'm going to go to Nature and Flame. This flame tool was really neat. I'm going to go to Edit, and down here where it says Variation, there are all different kinds of designs I can create. If I see one I like, I can start clicking on it and make them look more like that. When I'm ready, I press OK. Press OK again. And it popped on the screen. If I so choose, I could use the Move button right here. And oops, that's not what I want to do. I'm going to turn this other stuff off. And with the Move button, I can take it and move it wherever I want it. Turn these back on. Now, still clicked on Spiral over here, I can go to Colors, and I can colorize it. And I can change the hue, which is the actual color that it's going to be. Saturation, which is how deep the color is. And lightness, which is how bright it is. I can do that several times, but each time I do, I need to make sure I have a different layer. I'll call this one Spiral 2. Filters, Render, Nature, Flame. You can add as many as you want. Maybe I like one of these. Before I press OK, I can actually give it a color gradient if I want. And there it goes. I hope you'll take some time and play with this and get it looking the way that you really like it. I'm going to stop here for the sake of time and show you how to save. I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I am going to I've already given it a name. It's very important that this says JPG. Yours will probably say XCF, but I do not want it to be an XCF file. That will not work. I need it to be a JPG or a JPEG file. I'm going to press Enter to save. Export. Actually, cancel. One thing I need to do is make sure that this is saved where I want it. So I can go to my documents, or I can go to browse for other folders right here. And make sure you put it inside your own folder where you know you'll be able to find it. So let's save it into my pictures folder. Save. Export. And press save one more time. And now that image is saved in that particular folder. So, second part of the project. You're going to make a writing sample. 2 paragraphs at least, explaining what the Phoenix is, and what it means, and how it represents our school. So, of course, get that back. I'm going to change it to the right. Justified over here. Of course, your name should go at the top. Beneath it should be the date. Whatever the date may be. I'm going to center. And I'm going to give it a title. You should give it your own title. I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to make sure that it's a little bit bigger than the rest. Maybe even press bold. And I might go find a fun font to give it. Down below, go back to make sure it's left justified, so it's left part of the page. And this is where, oops, I don't want that font for the whole thing, just for the title. I'm going to go back to a reasonable font for this. So take some time and explain what the Phoenix is, how it relates to our school, what it represents to you. And then I'm going to press Enter a bunch of times and go down to the second page. And I'm going to go to Insert, Picture. I'm going to go back. Here's the one I saved in my documents in my pictures folder, which is exactly where I told it to be. And it's going to insert it there for me. Okay, so now that I'm all done, I'm going to click on the big Microsoft button, Save As. Make sure this goes back in your particular folder. You could say Phoenix Project. This way I've said who made it and what it is. When you save the file, it should say who it is and what it is. If you just save it with your name, by the end of the semester, you're going to have 18 different things you can't tell apart. So I'm going to press Save. I'm going to go back to Edmodo. And right here, yours will say Turn In. And that's where you will turn in the file to me, and you'll be done.